You are listening to the Holistic Travel Nurse podcast. This episode is all about somebody who experienced pneumonia from the coronavirus. She got very sick. 45 days of feeling not yourself from this virus. You don't think this pandemic is real? You don't think this virus has made people very sick? You need to listen to this episode. This is Lisa's story on getting over the coronavirus. So I hope this inspires you to take care of your health and to get educated and take control of things you can control. Enjoy listening to this. Thank you.
To the Holistic Travel Nurse podcast. In this episode, I have a nurse practitioner, Lisa, on. And Lisa's very special story because she had COVID, was positive for it, and she is going to share with us her experience. And she's been all over. I know you've been on like all sorts of kind of social media, interviewed everywhere, Lisa. So you can tell us a little bit about where you've been interviewed. You've been cooped up in your house for 45 days, you said. And so Lisa's going to tell us her story.
So my story just kind of starts out on, my husband and I went traveling to a symposium medicus conference over in Hawaii. We did that for 3 weeks. We started that journey on February 2nd, and I'm from Crested Butte, Colorado. So we went over there and we just went to the symposium medical conference. We were playing for a little while over there after the conference. And then on February 18th, we were getting ready to come home. And that's when I started feeling a little bit ill, but not too bad. I thought maybe I just started having some sniffles and a little bit of sneezing. My husband said, "Do you have a cold?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think I have a cold." And we were backpacking and riding bikes and hiking. And then on February 18th, I started having, pain in my neck and my back. And so I thought, well, maybe it was from the backpack. So February 19th, we arrived back in Crested Butte, Colorado. We took multiple buses, trains, planes when we were in, public transit when we were over in Hawaii, and when we were back in Colorado as well too. And then on February 19th, we arrived back in Crested Butte, and I just started feeling like my muscles were hurting. So I, just kind of chalked it up to the backpack because we didn't really carry any luggage. We just had large backpacks. So I went and got a massage. I just thought that would maybe make me feel better, which massage usually does. And I actually started feeling a little bit better. And I watched my nephew that week. I went to work. I wasn't really, I volunteered for a race. My husband and I do a lot of volunteering. So I volunteered for a race. Went ski mountaineering. And then on March 1st, my husband and I both didn't feel really well, and we both started having fevers. And so I have a little clinic here in Crested Butte. It's a women's health clinic. And so I went to the clinic. I said, maybe we have influenza. And so I went and got us influenza testing. I tested us for influenza A and B. That was negative. And we just kind of laid low in bed for 3 days. So March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And then I just started feeling worse. The week progressed. And then I started shortness of breath. Every time I stood up, I just felt like I wanted to collapse. I was really diaphoretic. I got really nauseous. And then on March 8th, I was just feeling so bad. I started having, I thought maybe it was like just really low back pain. I thought maybe it was my kidneys or something, but I started having really low back pain in my lower lobes. So I asked my husband to finally take me into the emergency room. That's how I usually don't go to the emergency room unless I feel very horrible. So I went to the emergency room on March 8th, and they did a CBC on me, a complete blood count. They did a chest x-ray. They started an IV on me with normal saline, and then they gave me a little IV Toradol for some pain. They did another influenza test on me that was negative. And then the chest x-ray came back that I had bilateral lower lobe pneumonia. And then they did the COVID-19 screening on me, and then they sent me home. And then I waited for 4 days until March 11th. I found out that I was positive for COVID-19. But let me just back up just a little bit. When we had the fevers on March 1st, I called on March 2nd. It was my husband and I were talking, and I said, do you think maybe we should just call the CDC and the local health department just to make sure that we don't have the coronavirus? And, he's like, that's probably a good idea. So I called the CDC and I called the local health department, and they both said that I didn't meet criteria for testing, and he didn't meet criteria for testing because we had no international travel. I didn't have any shortness of breath or anything like that. So they said that we didn't meet criteria, and just to, not worry about it, basically. So on March 8th is when I had the first COVID-19 test, and March 11th it came back positive.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been a real roller coaster ride for sure. There's days that you think that you're you feel better, and then it will just come back and hit you. I'd say the worst part for me has been, like the nausea, the joint and muscle aches were really bad for me. And then the shortness of breath. I had a few headaches for a couple days. I had headaches, and then I had eye pain. But then that resolved a couple days later. But mostly it's nausea. I've lost about 14 pounds just from
lack of appetite too.
Lack of appetite. I haven't felt like I wanted to eat. Nothing really sounds, great for me. I've been drinking lots of fluids and just trying to stay really hydrated. I've been taking vitamins and herbs, just supportive. I know some people, like for me, it's just worked. The stuff that I've taken, and it's made me feel better. So a lot of it's just supportive and comfort care for sure.
Absolutely. Because you had both long pneumonia. Were your oxygen saturations ever drop?
So I did have bilateral lower lobe pneumonia. My oxygen saturations, I've been monitoring my vital signs the entire time. So the lowest that my oxygen saturation has been is 88%. It never really got lower than that. I've been really trying to do some deep breathing exercises, meditation. I've been trying to do lots of yoga, but just trying to really stay active around the house. I think that's really one of the key things, is just getting up out of bed, doing some breathing exercises, making sure that I stay busy, because the anxiety and stress can really take over as well too.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I have to let people know she's in Crescent Butte. So what is your elevation there? Because you don't understand that the oxygen, for the mountains in Colorado is different.
Question. The elevation up here in Crescent Butte is 8,800 feet. So I'm sure that didn't help that much either. And then when you start having shortness of breath, you get anxious and you start panicking. And I did have, a full week to week and a half where I was having anxiety and panic attacks. So that was really hard for me too, just because it can be really overwhelming. You just feel like a fish out of water, like you can't catch your breath, you can't take a deep breath, fill your lungs up. So I'd try to lift my hands over my head. I'd try to put my, bend over and put my, hands on my knees. I'd try deep breathing exercises and just try to relax. So that was really, anxiety provoking for sure, the shortness of breath.
Oh, I can only imagine, seeing it on other people. I've never experienced it, but somebody that has a hard time breathing is very hard to watch. And being the one, you're the one who's, you have many years of taking care of other people. So now being the patient on that side, it's got to be kind of hard.
Mm-hmm. it was hard, but I feel very fortunate that I've gotten through this whole experience, and I've learned a lot from it, and yeah, it's a really strange, mysterious virus and illness. Everybody, it seems like everybody's symptoms are different, and their whole journey is a little different, I think.
Yeah, I've heard about it rebounding, like people feeling better and then they rebound and get worse. And I've seen that also. And so, but I also think, what do you think about, I mean, you probably agree with all the quarantine stuff and you don't want anybody else to get sick. So as we're recording this is in April and people are wanting things to be open, and knowing that you don't have any core mobilities, you don't have any major underlying issues, and it really knocked you down, this virus. And then the people that have any kind of little bit of a health issue puts them at like real high risk if they get this. So what is your thoughts on reopening the United States? I don't know where she went. I lost connection there, Lisa. Well, for a second, it just kicked me out. Okay, I do not know what happened. I'm gonna hit pause.
Okay.
So we got disconnected, but I was asking her about what's your thoughts about this whole going back to work, and are you fearful of what will happen in our healthcare system?
Yeah, so the thing that's really kind of bumming me out right now is the people that are protesting, because I feel like, right now we're mitigating the whole situation by the stay-at-home orders and, isolation and stuff like that, and then reopening everything too soon. I think that there might be a second wave, but I feel like it's going to put a huge burden on our hospitals and our nurses and doctors and just healthcare providers in general, because I think we are going to see probably a second wave. We might have a little tiny bit of herd immunity, but I don't think that we're even that close yet. But just, as a healthcare provider, I think just being an advocate for yourself, that's my biggest thing. Is I didn't want to go back to work until I knew that I wasn't shedding the virus anymore or spreading the virus, because the CDC standards are, there's two different standards. You can do the test-based strategy for healthcare workers, or you could do the non-test-based strategy. And I just chose to be really conservative and get the 2 negative tests before I go back to work. And I'm on isolation day number 45 right now. I'm still at home, and I still have not received 2 negative tests. So my initial test was March 8th, followed by a negative test. And then I got all my tests have been positive after that. And I'm waiting for my 2 negative tests to come back. So I did one on the 17th, and then I just did one on the 20th. So I'm waiting for those to come back, and then hopefully those will be negative and clear, and then I'll return back to the clinic or do some travel nursing or something. I haven't decided yet. I'll definitely go back into the clinic and help. And then I set up my telemedicine practice so I can still continue seeing my patients from home virtually.
Yeah, I bet you're still the nurse at heart, and you're still going, oh, I want to help those poor nurses in the front line. I can see it. And I know it because I'm around it right now. And I'm like, I was thinking of some of the people that I possibly work with, some nurses that I'm like, okay, you don't need to be taking care of those kind of patients right now. You're at risk, and we want to, look out for each other. And I had this other nurse who I was communicating with online, and she just said the best thing, that, we're the voice for our patients. When they can't speak up, we're the in between, we're their voice. And so right. I appreciate like everything that you're doing as the healthcare provider, as stepping in. And then like you've been interviewed everywhere because you want to, this isn't about you, this is about everybody else, and being the voice for the voiceless.
Well, and it's about protecting it's about protecting ourselves, our families, but our patients, our colleagues, and just our community. Because if we don't speak up and, just kind of, I feel like we have to kind of demand that we're taken care of too, because right now they're basically putting healthcare workers in very, very dangerous environments by saying that we can go back to work. We can go back to work 7 days after we were diagnosed with COVID-19 and 3 days of no symptoms, where we don't know if we're shedding the virus. Like, I am still testing positive at 38 days after by PCR testing. And I know, a lot of people are going to say, but the PCR testing, it's, not as sensitive, or, it's not as specific, and there's a low, a false negative and a false positive rate. And that's true with any test, but all the tests out there right now that we have for COVID-19 are all emergency use tests only. So
I know.
PCR testing is the standard that the CDC is using right now. And so that's what I'm going by. But, I feel like we all just need to protect each other, especially healthcare workers protecting healthcare workers. Did you get your test? Are you okay to come back to work? Because we're getting massive viral loads at work from COVID-19. It's not like some public that's going to get massive exposure to the virus. We're getting massive exposure on the front lines and, in the clinics and stuff like that to the coronavirus.
Yep. I agree. I totally agree. I think that, and especially I think that as healthcare providers, we need to be advocates for our own health and advocates for other people's health. I mean, we need to step up the game to how we manage our own health, especially as frontline workers. And the general public. I did a post on my Facebook wall, my business Facebook wall, that almost kind of went viral, that I said, I get frustrated with the media that they educate and they're talking about stuff, but they don't educate about how people can be doing simple things to manage stress, simple things to keep their immune system strong. I mean, as crucial as vitamin and C, vitamin D, there are so many people who are lacking general nutrients that make their immune system a little weaker. We don't talk about that.
No.
And so that frustrates me because it's something that should be talked about.
No, and I feel like a lot of people think, oh, you're just doing vitamins and herbs and stuff like that. And, I try to steer clear of medication, manufactured medication if I can. I feel like there's a lot of herbal remedies. I've been doing like garlic. I've been doing oregano oil, just a couple drops of that in hot water a day, lemon, just trying to, that works for me. It might not work for everybody, but it's made me feel better. I've been doing, essential oils like lavender bath, in my lavender oil in my bath, and tea tree oil and stuff like that, but it makes me feel better. And I feel like it's helped for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. For my mood management, I mean, literally for stress alone, I love my oils just for my stress alone. And because, when you're stressed, your immune system's weaker. And so you're just overall not dealing with health very well anyways, when you're walking around in that state of constant stress. So it's just those simple things that we could do, but and the simple things that we could do with telling people that is so crucial when it comes to your diet and your nutrition, your vitamin D, your vitamin A, your vitamin C. All those things are so crucial. And from being years in healthcare, we see that massive people are not only lacking in calcium and magnesium, all these things that really could just aid with people, and that we aren't talking about that. So
I agree with you. Like I have like a whole arsenal of, like vitamin C, B12, vitamin D. I've been doing zinc. I've been doing the garlic. I've been just really trying to stay on top of it. And I eat mostly plant-based, and I'd probably say 90 to 95% plant-based diet. And then others, is just meat, but it's really good quality meat that I eat. So, yeah, I feel like just getting the proper nutrients and exercising and taking care of yourself is really important.
Yeah, Yeah. It more so, I think, now than it ever has been. And I think people should invest more in their own health and their own health knowledge than they ever should have done before, because you're not going to get it. Sometimes there's no, I thank you, Lisa, that you're doing that with your patients and you do that with people, because it's so important. And
well, I definitely offer my patients, I'm like, do you want to do like a more of an herbal, like, because there's a lot of my patients, I do women's health, they don't want hormones. They don't in their body, some of them do, some of them don't. So I give them an option of, a hormonal, non-hormonal, or bioidentical hormones and stuff like that. But I just think it's really important to let patients buy into their care too, like,
yeah,
I'm there for you, and to work with you through your diet and your exercise and the medications that you're on, or herbal remedies. Like, it's all about you, and just having that collaboration with the patient. Like, the patient should be just involved in their care as the healthcare provider, and ask questions. I have people that say, hey, do you mind if I get a second opinion? I'm like, no, go get a third and a fourth opinion. Like, I want you to be involved in your healthcare. Like, it's very, very important that you're involved. Ask questions, follow up on your labs, follow up on your mammograms, just make sure that you're involved, because a lot of people they're not, and they just take a step back and they think that it's, up to the healthcare provider, but it's also up to the patient.
Absolutely. Yeah. It should be up to the patient. You're totally right. You must have read, I've read Sarah Godfrey's book, and I'm on herbs and bioidenticals and love them. So my herbs for my hormones are so crucial, important to me. I'm just like a crazy person without them.
Right. And there's so many natural supplements that you can take, and I'm not saying not to, take other medications if you need them, but try different things, so.
I absolutely agree, especially with women's hormone issues. And it's just so important. And it's so important right now. And I think that it's important people get that this virus is not like the flu at all. It can really kick your butt, and it can really do some damage. And it's taking a long time for people to actually feel 100%. Do you say now, this many days out, do you feel 100% yet?
So I don't feel 100% yet. I'd probably say I feel a good 90%. It's been going on for me about 6.5, 7 weeks. And, just through the World Health Organization, they say that the illness lasts anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks, depending on the viral load that you were exposed to. And I don't know where I got the exposure. Like, honestly, I've been backtracking in my mind, and my husband and I hang out a lot by ourselves. We do a lot of stuff. The only thing that we can think of is we had a lot of travel. We were on buses, trains, and planes. So I have no idea where I got the exposure. If I would have known, I wouldn't have been out in public or anything like that. But that's the hardest thing, is not knowing. And, a lot of my friends that I hang out with, we're very active. We hike, we mountain bike, we run, we ski mountaineer, and we're really healthy. And people are like, but I'm healthy. And I'm like, this virus does not discriminate. It doesn't matter if you are healthy or not. Some people get it worse than others, and we don't know why. So, the CDC, they asked me a couple times in the state, do you have any autoimmune disorders? And I'm like, no, I don't have any autoimmune disorders that I know of. I've never been diagnosed with, anything that I can think of that would put me into an autoimmune or immunosuppressed condition. So
the only thing that I thought with the virus when I looked at the data was that we don't know who has more on their cells of the ACE2, because that's where it's supposed to be attaching. And so there are more people genetically that are predispositioned maybe to it, because they have more ACE2 receptor sites on their cells than some other people don't. And who knows on that, because this is nothing that that's some serious genetic testing, or I don't even know how you even know that. No idea.
And then, there's a lot of studies coming out, and they're saying if you have blood type A positive, that coronavirus can affect you a little bit more. So they're looking at specific blood studies now. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. But the thing is that there's so many unknowns right now. The CDC doesn't, or, the local and state, they don't really know either. So I think it's just kind of trial by fire, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with that. I don't want to push a vaccine through that is not going to be effective.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather have because it is mutated a lot too. And there's like 3 huge, what I last read about 3 different ones. I'm like, I'd rather have a vaccine that was actually effective than we put something out there that's not effective.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's going to be 12 to 18 months before a vaccine's even out too. So that's another concern is, do you shut everything down until then? But that's not sustainable for our economy either. So
no, because it's a little crazy, but it's like we have to learn a different way of living for a while. Mm-hmm. And so these Zoom calls are going to be like, this is how we're going to communicate, or like FaceTime, like I said, with my family. My parents are high risk of age, so it's going to be FaceTime communication for a while, like FaceTime Thanksgivings. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, and I think, out of bad stuff, there comes good changes. And, so I foresee a lot of changes, happening from this. And I don't know, I'm just trying to stay really optimistic and positive about things.
I did put a post that too. And I said, what positive things can we take away from this? Because we have to look at going, okay, what the past few weeks, what can we, have some positive change and positive outlooks on it. So that's always, we have to turn it to like that too. We have to, otherwise we are going through, just cycling through some negativity, and we can let that negativity cycle, and the brain will cycle more and more easy if we don't make a conscious effort to actually stop it. It will cycle. And so we have to consciously do something to make it like stop cycle. I love my yoga and meditation, obviously. And I miss my like in-class yoga, which I won't be doing. I'm gonna have to be doing it back there with my dogs. It's going to be super fun. Or outside by myself, where people are kind of outside my RV, where people come just look at me like, what is that crazy woman doing? But I'm going to still do it. I just miss my yoga with other people.
No, I agree. Yeah. My phone is.
That's okay.
My phone is giving me some issues. Sorry.
That's okay. I know we'll almost wrap it up before our iPhone dies.
Okay.
But we'll just thank you for like being on. I know you agree with all that, because I'm super excited that you have been on and that you're sharing your story and you're speaking up. And I love that you were on the Today Show. How many places have interviewed you right now?
I've been on the Today Show, CBS, MSNBC, Fox News, Denver channels. I've done a few radio. I've done NPR, the BBC.
It's time to write a book now, Lisa. It's time to write a book.
Yeah. No, I want to. I might have something kind of in the works, but my mission is just to spread awareness and, just really be an advocate for speaking up for healthcare providers, and just our community and our health. So that's really important to me right now.
Hey, yeah, definitely. You might get some good speaking engagements from this. There be some really great speaking engagements. I might put you in touch with some people that you might be able to go speak at when we can all congregate together.
Okay. I would love that, just because I really do want to help and, spread awareness. And I think it's really important because there's a lot of fear. It's fear-based, lots of unknowns about the virus, and as deadly as it can be, there's a lot of people that are really doing well, and they're recovering, and they're gonna go on and live normal, happy, healthy lives. And it's really sad, and the testing's been really sad too. The testing has been very infuriating for me.
Oh yeah. I was just thinking recently, I'm like, there's a lot of false negatives. There's been some positives, but then some false negatives. Like we've seen where they will test negative and then they'll test positive. It's just, it's a sticky situation with how we're testing right now until things
I think
come
the
out
key
better.
right now is we need rapid antibody screening or rapid salivary testing. We need something that somebody can come in, say, I think I have COVID, and they get results within 5 to 15 minutes. And then you're like, okay, you're clear, or you go home, and isolate. But until we get that, we can't help with mitigation, and people are just walking around. I call it the walking shed. Like, we're walking around shedding the virus, and we don't know. It's like we're shedding, super shedders, just 38 days. Like, look at me. If I would have went back to work at 14 days or 7 days now, what they're saying, and no symptoms, I'd be shedding the virus all over the community, at work, to my colleagues, to my friends, my family. So I think we have to listen to our bodies, and if we don't feel well, we stay at home.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Yep. Be your own advocate. And then as nurses, we're your advocate. We're always your advocates. We, as nurses, we speak up for you. We speak up for the public. And we're the voice for you. And we really, really, really do put ourselves out there in so many ways that I have so many nurses and doctors that are having no contact with their families. They're sacrificing so much right now to work the front lines. And so we do need to give them that support. They are doing so much right now in extra protection. Oh my goodness gracious. We are going so over and beyond that people are posting pictures of their hands that are bright red and irritated from the amount of sanitizers and the amount of washes. And we have people making this masks. We have people with sores on their faces. We have people with sores on their ears. We have nurses that are just working themselves 16, 18-hour days. We have physicians working 18-hour days. It's right now, we need to just give them a big applause and a big hug for those people.
And we need to protect our healthcare workers. The community can protect us too. We're protecting the sick, and we also need, we need that from our community and our, people that come into the hospitals and stuff. We need them to protect us too. So stay at home.
I agree. And mask up. I'm telling everyone get a mask. And if they want to open things up, then fine. Everybody wear a mask. Then it's fine with me. That's just something. And then still be washing their hands. But I'm going to just end it here, and I'm going to thank you for being on. Just stay on with me for just a minute while I stop.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.